السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. We are still going ahead with the course on how to do da'wah, and as I said before, it's very difficult to condense this course in 4 weeks. We need at least 4 months if we want to explain everything, because there is a theoretical aspect of it and a practical aspect of it. So after getting some theories, then you put them into practice. But as I said, if we can't do it all, at least we can benefit with some ideas. Maybe in the future, for those who are interested, we can make a special prolonged course in this regard, because as we said before, doing da'wah is very important, and it's compulsory upon every Muslim, all in his own capacity. As we said before, you can be a doctor and do da'wah, you can be a nurse and do da'wah, and we will see how, as we saw before. So you don't need to designate yourself as a da'iyah, full-time da'iyah, to be able to do da'wah. In whatever capacity you are, you can do da'wah. And as we said before, da'wah does not mean only words, preaching, exhortations. Your behavior, the way you deal with the people, the way you react to different situations, the way you do your work, the way you comport yourself. So it's a full package on how you present yourself to others. Sometimes you do da'wah without saying even a word. As I said before, some people who were non-Muslims, who were working with a Muslim young man, and because of his dedication, because of his hard work, and because of his determination in prayer, whenever time for prayer came, whenever he heard the adhan, he would leave whatever he was doing to go and pray. So the non-Muslims were curious. They asked him, why do you leave your job to go and pray? So this was a turning point for them. So from here, they started learning about Islam, and it became an eye-opener for them. Eventually, they became Muslims. So sometimes you don't need to say even a word if you want to do da'wah, but it's how you behave, as we will be seeing in this course. Now, we begin tonight with this hadith, which will also give us some tips on how to do da'wah. And actually, this is one of the most difficult ahadith to explain. It says in Arabic, it was narrated by Abu Hurairah, أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال الأرواح جنود مجندة فما تعارف منها ائتلف وما تناكر منها اختلف. This is one of the most difficult ahadith to translate or to interpret or to explain. Sometimes people always quote it, but if you ask the real meaning, a few of them would give you the real meaning of it. So let's see the translation in English and go into details. It says, souls are like conscripted armies. So long as they get acquainted with each other, they will become harmonious. And as long as they stay away from each other, they will continue to differ. Now, from the Arabic perspective, this means, according to some scholars, and actually the interpretation I'm going to give it's not from me, it's from scholars. And there are some websites that it can give you if you need details. So one interpretation is that people, when they were still souls, before the bodies were created, and of course they say souls were created before the bodies, so the bodies were created after, and then the souls were inserted into the bodies. So the souls, before they were created, those people who knew each other when still in the world of the souls, in the spiritual world, before getting the bodies, when they are created, when they get the bodies, when they are formed into bodies, they will like one another. And they say this is one of the reasons why sometimes you see a person whom you never saw in your life, and you say, I feel like I know this person, I feel like I have seen this person. So you know each other from what they call alamil arwah, the world of the souls. So when you assume the body, when you are given the body, so you will still know each other, although you might not necessarily have met with one another. So this is one interpretation. So you might not have seen anyone, you might not have dealt with anyone, but you see him, you feel you like him, you feel he isn't a stranger. It's because your souls knew each other before you were created. Another interpretation is, People who have the same characteristics, the same behavior, they will like to associate with one another. So, for example, if someone is a liar, he wants to be associated with liars. If someone is trustworthy, he would like to befriend trustworthy people. If someone is hardworking, he would like to befriend hardworking people. So, and this is what I want. Actually, by doing da'wah, if you are targeting the non-Muslims, sometimes you don't need to say a word. Try to find out what they like. If they are honest, be honest with them. If they are hardworking, be hardworking with them. If they like to play basketball, arrange basketball tournaments. If they want to play soccer, arrange soccer tournaments. So your aim is to associate with them, play with them. You remove the psychological barrier between you and them. Once you remove this psychological barrier between you and them, whatever you say, they will be in the receptive mode. So this is basically what the hadith is telling us, that you have to look for the characteristics of that person, what he likes, what he doesn't like. So you enter through his heart, through the avenues of what he likes. So we are still talking on some things that you have to put into consideration if you want to do da'wah. And next week and after, we will be talking about the techniques. And when we talk about those techniques, we will be referring to what we are talking about now. Be interested in the needs of those you are inviting to Islam. This is very important. You want to do da'wah to someone, he isn't a Muslim. Maybe his attitude is negative towards Islam. Try to identify the interest of this person. Because if you go straight forward and start telling him Islam, Islam, and he comes from a world whereby Islam is negative, Islam is portrayed as a religion that encourages terrorism, Muslims hate non-Muslims, a lot of negative stuff. So this is the person, you're seeing him for the first time, he hates Islam, and from where he came from, he didn't interact with any Muslim, and you're beginning with Islam. Of course, you are creating a barrier between you and him. He won't listen to you, and he won't like to see you again. But what you should do is to identify his interests. What are his interests? So you provide him with what he wants. For example, if he likes to go to cultural places to learn about the culture, take him there. If he likes lectures about the culture, take him there. If he wants restaurants where they serve local food, wheresoever you are, it could be in Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, so take him there. So what you're doing is you're preparing the ground for doing da'wah. By taking him there, giving him what he wants, he will feel that you are a friend. So you begin with creating friendship. You begin with cultivating friendship with that person. So in the long run, he will end up trusting you. And when he trusts you, whatever you say, he will accept it. So we have this man by the name Charles R. Walters. He was a manager of one of the New York's largest banks. He was assigned with the responsibility to prepare a confidential report on a certain corporation. So they wanted him to write a report about a certain corporation, to learn about them, what are they doing, why are they excelling, what can they benefit from them. So this man, Charles, he knew only one person who had the facts that would help him in order to compile that report. So it clicked in his mind, so and so will help me because he has all the facts that I need to compile this report. Now, when Mr. Walters was ushered into the office of that president of that corporation from whom he wanted information, when they were sitting together, so Mr. Charles Walters is sitting with the president of that corporation, a young woman came to the president and whispered into his ear that, today I don't have stamps for your son. That president of that company, his son was interested in stamps. So his father was collecting them for him. So he tells his visitor, Walters, the president of that corporation, he's telling Walters, I am collecting stamps for my 12-year-old son. So it was a worry for him because he wants, when he goes home, to go with stamps. And actually, I don't know if people still have this hobby now. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, some people had the hobby of collecting mail stamps from different countries. Some people had the hobby of collecting currencies from different countries. So this young boy was, among his hobbies, was to collect the stamps. Now, when this lady told the president of this corporation that I don't have stamps today for your son, actually it bothered him. He was not in moods. So Mr. Walters, after being told by the president of this corporation that he doesn't have stamps for his son, Mr. Walters goes ahead asking questions because he wants to compile a report. But they say that man was vague, general, nebulous, and nebulous means he was unclear, he was ambiguous. He wouldn't answer the questions clearly. Why? Because he was worried because of the stamps. Now, if you were in Mr. Walters' position, you need some information from someone, and this someone tells you he's collecting stamps for his 12-year-old son, and now he doesn't have stamps today, what would you have done? You need information from that person, you need help from him, but before even you start explaining what you want, he tells you, I'm collecting stamps for my son, but today I don't have them. What would you have done if you were in the position of Charles Walters?
Someone we can find stamps. Maybe we don't have stamps today, but we shall get some.
Good. Yeah, promise him that you will help him to find the stamps. Yeah, show him that you are interested in his problem. Now here, if you are clever, you forget about your problems. You concentrate on his problems. You give him assurances, I will help you, I will try my best to find you stamps. So when you give him assurances, he will rest assured that I'm going to get stamps, and now he'll be in the mood of answering your questions. So this is very important. We can apply this even to the people to whom we want to do da'wah. So be interested in them. Finally, they will be interested in you. Even though they might not accept Islam, at least they will change their attitude towards Islam. And they would be ambassadors of Islam without knowing. From my experience, I have so many people whom I dealt with. They were not Muslims. They had a negative attitude towards Islam. In the end, they liked Islam, but they didn't become Muslims. But they did introduce Islam to others who became Muslims through their hands. So they themselves didn't become Muslims, but they talked positively about Islam to their friends and relatives. And those friends and relatives, some of them became Muslims through them. So it's very important to concentrate on the needs of that person you're dealing with. Disraeli, actually Benjamin Disraeli, was a British politician and writer who twice served as a prime minister in the United Kingdom. Benjamin Disraeli served twice as a prime minister of the United Kingdom. He was born in 1804 and died in 1881 at the age of 77. What does he say? He says, talk to people about themselves and they will listen for hours. Talk to people about themselves and they will listen for hours. Actually, Dale Carnegie, in his book How to Win Hearts and Make Friends, he also says if you want to win someone as your friend, you have to be interested in that person. So the mistake some of us do when we're doing dawah, you don't know the person, you've seen him for the first time, you don't know what he likes, what he doesn't like, where he came from, what's his attitude about Islam, and here you are, Islam, Islam, Islam. I have seen in some situations, some people giving brochures to non-Muslims who are new either to Kuwait or any other countries, some countries which I visited. Out of courteousness, out of politeness, the man would take the brochures, but when he walks 10 meters away from you, he would dump them in a trash can. So what's the point? So respect his or her point of view. This is very important. Even if you don't agree with him, even if you don't agree with her, you have to respect their point of view. We should learn to listen to others and respect their ideas. Don't judge him. Don't condemn him. Don't judge her. Try to understand where they come from. Because for us as Muslims, we were born Muslims, so we take everything for granted. But someone who has been in a country whereby there are a few Muslims, or maybe in the locality from where he came, no Muslims were there, and all he or she heard about Islam was negative, negative, negative. So what do you expect the attitude of this person to be? Of course, he will be negative. So deal with him gently. Try to understand where he comes from. Actually, I did have a discussion with an imam. He is experienced in doing dawah, and actually he's a motivational speaker. He encourages people. He tries his best to solve people's problems. So he had a problem with his own son. So this person is helping people, strangers, but his son is rebellious. The son was not listening to him. So he did complain to me because he trusted me. the behavior of his son. I asked him rather, have you ever had the time, because his son was a teenager, have you ever spared time to sit with your son, see what his ideas are, what his concerns are? He said no. So all the time it's do this, don't do this, do this. So at this age, at this tender age, if it need be, you need to take him somewhere else. Take him to a restaurant, take him to a beach, talk to him as a friend, try to understand him, try to put yourself in his shoes. You know, the mistake that we do as parents sometimes, we tend to have this attitude that our children should behave like we do, should think like we do. We forget what we did when we were at that age. So this is a big problem. So this man was not trying to understand his son. Now this is an example that we can even employ to people we are dealing with. Your grandfather was a Muslim, your great-grandfather was a Muslim, you're born a Muslim, and this person isn't a Muslim, he is coming from a non-Muslim country. So how do you expect him to be like you? How do you expect him to think like you? How do you expect him to behave like you? So try sincerely to understand this person. Remember that other people may be totally wrong, but they don't think so. So according to you, this person might be wrong, but according to him, he is not wrong. So if you condemn him, if you judge him, actually you are putting a barrier between you and him or her, and your dawah efforts won't be successful. So what should we do when someone has a different opinion? So most of the time, of course, this person you're doing dawah to, he will have different opinions to yours, because he isn't a Muslim, you are a Muslim, he's coming from a different society, you are in a different society. So in such a situation, when you get the chance to talk to this person, and this person insists on his opinion which are different from yours, what should you do? First of all, try to understand his views. Now in this case, if a person comes from a country where the media is against Islam, I will try to put myself in his shoes. Imagine maybe the entire source of information available to you is the media. So the media is negative about Islam. You don't know of any Muslim, and the few Muslims that you deal with, they are not honest, they are arrogant, and they behave in a negative way. So you grew up in such a situation, and then you come to a country or to a society with a lot of Muslims. At the beginning, you will feel that maybe all Muslims are like that. For example, there are some people in Asia and Africa who think that all Arabs are Muslims. They don't know that there are Arab Christians, they don't know that there are Arab Jews. And there are some people as well who feel or think that all Arabs behave like the generation of the Prophet ﷺ, like Khadija, Aisha, like Abu Bakr, Umar. This is their perception before they go to any Arab country. No. So when they go there and they see people behaving differently from what they used to think, it will have a tremendous effect on them. So the point is, we have to understand where this person is coming from. Learn about his background, about his culture. This will help you to deal with him, and this will help you to understand where his opinions are coming from. And tactfully, you'll try your best to change these opinions, not in one day, not in 2 days. It will take time. Don't be rude or arrogant. Even if that person is rude to you, don't react in the same way. Don't show arrogance. Actually, I have a friend who claims to be an expert in da'wah. So one day, I introduced him to an American lady who is a teacher, very clever lady. And I told him, I am busy. She needs some information about Islam. Could you please sit with her and provide her with the information she needs? After some time, maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, she came to me and said, Mr. Hassan, I don't like to see the face of your friend again. So she didn't tell me why. At that time, after some time, she told me, I felt that he was arrogant, that everything he said about Islam was to satisfy his ego. Not because of Islam, it was because of himself. So she thought he had selfish motives for him to explain Islam to her. So this is why I say that if you are dealing with a non-Muslim, even if they are rude, don't react in the same way. Stay cool and calm. And don't dwell on it. So you have some differences. Of course, even your brothers, your sisters, even if you're twins, you can't have the same ideas, you can't have the same behavior, you can't like the same food. You will have some differences, even within the same family, even husband and wife. So what about a person who is a stranger? Of course, there will be differences, but don't dwell on those differences. Try to find things in which you are common with that person. Begin with things in which you are common, and then the differences later, when you win this person as a friend. Respect the other person's right to have an opinion. You know, some people are opinionated. They feel that their opinions are right and other people's opinions are wrong. Even if you feel that his opinions are wrong, her opinions are wrong, still listen and try to understand him and try to put yourself in the shoes of that person. This will help you, and actually in the end he will give you the opportunity to express yourself, and he will respect you because he knows you trust yourself, you have confidence in yourself, and you know what you're talking about. So Taylor Swift says, we don't need to share the same opinions as others, but we need to be respectful. We don't need to share the same opinions as others, but we need to be respectful. Everyone has his own opinions, and because we come from different experiences, different backgrounds, different societies, someone's opinions are formed by so many things. We didn't come from the same background, we didn't come from the same parentage. Even as I said, twins, they have differences. So let's try to address the things in which we are in common and the differences later. So you don't dwell on those differences and judge and condemn a person because of those opinions in which he or she is different from you. Try honestly to put yourself in his place, in the shoes of that person you're talking to. If you say to yourself, how would I feel? How would I react if I were in his shoes? Now, for example, a person comes to you, he is a Christian. His father is a Christian. His grandfather was a Christian. His great-grandfather is a Christian. And according to him, he loves Christianity. It's part and parcel of him. So if you go ahead to insult his religion, of course, he will hate you. So you put yourself in his shoes in the same manner. You are a Muslim. You go to a non-Muslim country, and they start from the start. They insult your religion. How would you feel about them? So we should always put ourselves in the shoes of the other person. Or you are a Muslim, your mother is sick at home, or your father is ill. You want to buy some medication to save the life of your father. You are actually going quickly. You don't have enough time. You have only 5 minutes. And someone with his Bible stops you on the way and says, I want to talk to you about Jesus. You are a Muslim. Your mother is ill. You're going to buy some medication. You have 5 minutes. You're rushing. You want to come back home. What would you feel? You want to rescue someone. You don't have enough time. And someone on the way stops you. Jesus Christ. In the name of Jesus. Praise the Lord. How would be your reaction?
I would apologize and say,
You-
I have an emergency.
You would apologize, right? You have an emergency.
I have an emergency. But
Some people would insist, even if you apologize. I've seen this. Yeah, even if you have an emergency, Jesus will help you. Hallelujah. They will insist. So Muslims, we are not like that. If someone apologizes, I would suggest that you look into the facial features of that person. If he seems to have an emergency, to be rushing, don't bother. Yes, Brother Salah. Yes.
Do you believe in the street dawah?
I do believe in it in some aspects, and in some aspects no. I have a lot of ideas about it, and actually if you're interested we can discuss it, me and you, because when we talk about this, I told my friends who were doing street dawah that I have some ideas about that, and actually some of them did like the ideas. So if you implement these ideas, the ones that I have and the ones that some other people who have been doing it do, you'll be successful. But if you don't, you'll be insulted, and the books or whatever you give them will end up being dumped. So both of us can talk about it. In some aspects, yes. In some aspects, no. So don't condemn them. Any fool can condemn a person. Try to understand them. only wise, tolerant, exceptional, and objective people would try to understand others. So you're dealing with someone, he's a non-Muslim, and then you judge them, you'll go to hellfire, kafir. No, don't condemn them. Even the Prophet ﷺ never did that. There is a time when some companions of the Prophet ﷺ went to complain to him that, these Quraysh, these polytheists are giving us hard time. Why don't you pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to kill them all? He said, I was sent as mercy from God, not as a person to curse them. So he would rather pray for them, not to pray against him. And these were polytheists who were harming Muslims, who were disturbing Muslims, who were discrediting him, the Prophet. But he didn't judge them. Even in Ta'if, when he was pelted with stones, and an angel came and said, you know what? Allah has seen what they have done to you. And if you want, the angel in charge of the mountains will envelop them with the mountains. The Prophet said, no, I pray to Allah to forgive them. They are doing what they don't know. These are the people who harmed the Prophet, but he didn't condemn them. So why should we condemn people, yet the Prophet, the best human being, didn't condemn anyone, didn't curse anyone? So I have these pictures here, and I need answers from you. These pictures of, where can we find this city or these buildings, skyscrapers? In which country can we find them? Kuwait, right?
This looks like a building I've just finished.
Kuwait.
No, down.
Down here?
No, it's the same picture.
This one.
On the right.
This one. Okay. And this picture? Kuwait. This picture?
I guess it's all one picture, but from different parts.
No. This picture? From where? 2 different countries. Who can guess these buildings? Lebanon? Gulf countries?
Yeah, this one, Kuwait.
Kuwait? Okay. These 2 pictures represent Kuwait. You can see them in Kuwait. And these 2 are from Uganda, East Africa. Now, if a person mentioned Uganda before showing these pictures, you would say no. Why do I say this? First, I used to deal with a lady. She used to proofread some letters for us and some articles for us. So this lady, we would give her some articles to proofread, and then we would read them. Then we discovered there were some mistakes. So one day I wanted to confirm whether this lady is sincere or not. So I told her this article was written by an American. So she didn't find any mistake. She brought back the article to me and said everything is okay. The same article, I just changed some paragraphs. Then I gave it to her back after 2 weeks and said it was written by an Indian. I found a lot of mistakes. Why? Because of the mindset, perceptions. So sometimes perceptions would blind us from the reality. Maybe this person is a Christian, he's a good person, he lacks someone to introduce Islam to him, so don't condemn, don't have any perceptions. Try not to be biased against anyone if you want to be successful in da'wah. So for example, people, actually the first time I came to Kuwait, a person asked me, where are you from? I said, from Uganda. The first question was, do you have airports in your country? So first, and actually he claimed to be a professor at university. I met him in Dubai. So I asked myself, if he's a professor, he doesn't know that I flew all the way from Uganda to Dubai, how would I fly? So because he seemed to be teasing me, I also teased him. I said, you know what? We don't have an airport. We have a huge tree. So an aeroplane comes, it lands on the tree, and they bring ladder, then we descend from the tree. So he didn't have anything to say. So if you are doing da'wah, be open-minded. Avoid perceptions. Dr. Johnson said, God himself, sir, does not propose to judge man until the end of his days. So God himself does not judge a man until the end of his days. So God gives you a respite. If you're to live 90 years, 100 years, he will judge you when you die. Even before you die, for a few minutes, if you repent sincerely, not only does he forgive you, your sins will turn into rewards. This is Allah, God. So if Allah does not judge anyone on earth, why should we judge people? Maybe today this person isn't a Muslim, tomorrow he will become a practicing Muslim. Maybe today you brag about being a Muslim, tomorrow something happens, you disbelieve in Allah. I have some cases whereby I talked to a lady, it took me 3 hours. She used to love her father very much. She cherished her relationship with her father. Finally, her father died. So she recanted Islam. She became an apostate. She said, if God loves me, why did he take my father? So she tried Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Jainism, all the Zizism. Finally, she came back to Islam and I had to sit with her. So don't be so confident that you will die as a believer, and don't look down upon people who are not believers. They might be believers tomorrow and you might be a disbeliever tomorrow. And this is why I say, if you want to do da'wah, before doing that you have to make sure you pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless your efforts in whatever you do, because it's only by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you can be guided. It's not by virtue of your efforts. Al Capone, those of you who are familiar with American history, he was America's most notorious public enemy, the most sinister gang leader who ever shot up Chicago. He would just kill whatever with his gun whenever he had the opportunity of doing that. He said, so Al Capone said, I have spent the best years of my life giving people the lighter pleasures, helping them have a good time, and all I get is abuse, the existence of a hunted man. So imagine someone who was killing people, who was a sinister gang, leader of gangsters. So this is what he says. Which pleasures was he giving people? So crying, was it a pleasure when you kill someone's relative and then he cries? Helping them to have good time. So was he helping people whom he killed to have good time as dead people? So this is what he said. He didn't condemn himself. He actually regarded himself as a public benefactor who was unappreciated and misunderstood. And this is a criminal. So what's the point here that we want to drive home? Al Capone, the most sinister gang leader, he wrote that he was condemned, he was hated, he was unappreciated, he used to give people pleasures, yet he was killing people. What's the point here?
Because everyone has own perception of himself.
Yes. So people have perceptions of themselves and other people. So we don't condemn them. Condemning them won't help. And actually when we condemn them, they will create defensive mechanisms. Even though they know what they are doing is wrong, if you condemn them publicly, they will stick to it because they want to save face. So we should do it in the other way. What else? What do we want to? What's the point that we want to drive home here? Sharing the story of Al Capone. Yes, Brother Salah.
I have that they are doing good.
Yeah. So the more you condemn him publicly, the more you criticize him, the more he will create defensive mechanisms. So you are the loser here if you want to reform this person. This is a very wrong approach. Even your own children. You are a fool abusing your children. You are a failure. I have had some stories whereby my friends told me because their wives were always abusing the children, so the child will say, okay, you said I'm a failure, all right, I'm a failure. So what? You're the one who said it, I'm a failure. So they thought by abusing them, insulting them, they will encourage them to work harder, but they were actually discouraging them. So this technique doesn't work. Yes, Brother Salah.
Also, I remember Pharaoh with him, and he's giving himself reasons to.
Yeah, so he was accusing Musa alayhi salam of being corrupt. And who was corrupt between the two? So he didn't realize the Pharaoh that he himself was corrupt. Alphonse Gabriel. Okay, this is about Al Capone. We've already talked about him. So by wisdom and good preaching, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن إن ربك هو أعلم بمن ضل عن سبيله وهو أعلم بالمهتدين. Translated as, invite all to the way of your Lord with wisdom and beautiful preaching, and argue with them in ways that are best and most gracious. Indeed, your Lord is most knowing of who has strayed from his way, and he is most knowing of who is rightly guided. Now we can talk much about this, but I want just to pinpoint some few issues. Wisdom, the meaning of wisdom from Arabic, it's called al-hikmah. to say what you say in an appropriate time and appropriate place, to see when you can talk to someone and where you can talk to that person. If someone has an emergency, according to hikmah, don't talk to him at this time. If someone has a negative attitude about Islam and you've met with him for the first time, at this time don't talk about Islam to this person. If someone is in a marketplace buying something, he's busy, and actually especially if he comes from a Western culture, some people from the West are well organized. A person knows, I will go out from my house, I'm going to buy actually they have papers, the right items. I will do my shopping within 20 minutes, get back home, have a cup of coffee, go to work. If you interrupt this person, it's a problem. I'll just give you an example. You know, in Somalia, people are very generous. And actually neighbors, in the morning, depending on where you are, before they go to work, they would greet their neighbors, hello, good morning, how was the night? They want to know the situation of the neighbors, so they would go to work. So one person, I was told by a friend who is in the US from Somalia as well, one person from Somalia went and lived in Sweden. So in Sweden, he wanted to implement the same act that he was doing in Somalia. So he would live in an apartment, and in the morning he would knock at the doors of his neighbors, some of whom were Swedish, to just say, hi, how was the night? One man sued him in a court. And when he sat in front of the judge asking him what's the problem, the Swedish man said, you know, every morning I have to wake up, read the newspapers, know what's going on in the country, take a cup of coffee, and then go to work. So when this man knocks at my door, sometimes I lose track of where I had stopped. So I have to begin from the beginning. And this takes me 15 more minutes. It was a problem. So the person thought he was doing good to the Swedish, but according to his culture, it wasn't good. And this is again why we say that if you want to do da'wah to people, understand their culture. Another friend went to Japan. Here in Kuwait, for example, you are in a shopping mall, ladies are behind you, you let them go first. You want to get you want to board a lift, ladies are beside you, let them go first. So he wanted to do the same in Japan. The lady was offended. She said, why do you let me go first? Here in Japan we compete, men and women. So he thought he would make her happy, but rather he annoyed her because he didn't learn about the culture of that person. So it's very important to learn about the culture of the person you want to introduce Islam to. Otherwise, simple mistake will make that person hate you. And if that person hates you, it's a problem. Another example, we used to go to a study circle somewhere, and we would always assign each one of us a topic for 10-15 minutes. And it was a study circle comprising of Muslims and non-Muslims. So one man who used to attend with us by the name Tony, he disappeared for 6 months. So for 6 months, we didn't see him in our circle over there every Friday. So after 6 months, he comes back, and some people would ask him, where did you go, Tony? We missed you a long time. Why didn't you tell us when you traveled? They asked him questions. So he told them his mother had died. So he went back home because his mother, he had lost his mother. So one guy who claimed to be an expert in da'wah, imagine a person claiming to be an expert in da'wah, what did he ask him? Was your mother a Muslim? Tony goes, no. And this guy says she will go to hell. Imagine someone who just lost his mother, he's still sad, and you tell him that she will go to hell in front of everyone. So is this da'wah? Is this wisdom? So you need wisdom when you're doing da'wah. And actually we can talk a lot about wisdom in da'wah. Also, we should not abuse. For example, if you're dealing with a Hindu or a Buddhist or someone who worships cows, don't abuse the cow. Don't abuse the idols, because they will retaliate by abusing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abu Jahl, Abu Sufyan wanted to meet, and some other ringleaders of Makkah who were not Muslims. Others hadn't become Muslims, and others of course died without becoming Muslims. They wanted to see Abu Talib, the paternal uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, when he was when he was suffering from his fatal illness, in his sick bed, in his deathbed, so to speak. So they wanted to see Abu Talib, And the Prophet ﷺ was busy with Abu Talib, trying to make him say La ilaha illallah, testify that there is no one worthy to be worshipped except Allah. So if he dies after saying that, he would go to paradise. But these people dissuaded him from saying that in a long speech, in a long story. So these people, Abu Jahl, Abu Talib, they didn't listen. They didn't give the Prophet ﷺ the chance to convince Abu Talib to become a Muslim. And they told the Prophet that if you continue abusing our idols, we will also abuse your God. We will insult your God. So they told the Prophet, stop insulting our idols. If you continue, we will insult your God. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, وَلَا تَسُبُّ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ فَيَسُبُّ اللَّهَ عَدْوًا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ كَذَلِكَ زَيَّنَّ لِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ عَمَلَهُمْ ثُمَّ إِلَى رَبِّهِمْ مَرْجِعُهُمْ فَيُنَبِّئُهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Translated as, and do not abuse or insult, and do not abuse or insult those that they invoke other than Allah, lest they abuse and insult Allah in vengeance and enmity without knowledge. So if you abuse their gods, their idols, in retaliation, they will abuse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you will be the reason why they abuse Allah. So don't do that. Just focus on the points. Focus on the facts. Don't insult, don't judge, don't abuse. So the facts will speak for themselves. And actually sometimes they themselves would abuse themselves, would insult themselves. How? I met a lady from Switzerland. She was doing a research on what happens after someone dies. So after death and before the day of judgment, during this period when someone is in the grave before the day of judgment, she wanted to know what happens, because according to her statement in the Bible, they speak about death, they speak about the day of judgment, but they don't give the details of what happens in this period, transition period between death and the day of judgment. So we gave her the information. Another day she came, she said, you know, you Muslims, you don't give women their rights. They have to cover, they have to wear veils, they have to cook. She was so negative about Islam, especially in the aspect of the rights, especially with regard to the rights of women in Islam. So she was actually castigating, criticizing, raising her voice, speaking in a high-pitched tone. So we just cooled down, we kept quiet, we let her finish. So after she had finished, I asked her, do you believe in the Bible? She said yes. Are you sure? She said yes. Do you believe in it from cover to cover? She said yes. Which version of the Bible? She said the King James Version. I had it, the King James Version. I lifted it up and I said, are you sure you believe in this version of the Bible? She said yes. I asked her to open Leviticus. In Leviticus it says, when a woman is in her menses, she would be impure from morning up to evening. She will not stay with her husband for 1 week. She will not touch him. She will not touch anything in the house. And if she happens to touch anything among the utensils of the house, they will be impure until evening. And if her husband touches her, he will be unclean until evening. It goes on and on. You can go and read the Leviticus. So I told her, do you implement that? She said no. Do you believe in that? She kept quiet. By herself, not me, not my friends, she said Christians are crazy. She is a Christian by herself. We didn't say it, and of course we can't say it. So she herself a Christian because she didn't have any answer. And then we started giving her information about the rights of women from the Islamic perspective. The point is, don't judge them, don't abuse them. Maybe you can ask them questions politely, and sometimes they themselves will insult their own faith without you doing that. And they say, if someone insults himself, if someone abuses himself, it's lighter than when someone abuses him. Avoid the following cancerous behaviors: criticizing, complaining, comparing, competing, and contending. So when you are discussing with a non-Muslim about religion, or even when you are discussing with any person about any other matter, you want to win the heart of this person, don't criticize him. Don't criticize his belief. Don't complain about him. Don't complain about his belief. Don't compare between your belief and his belief. And this is another problem. You have to know, the non-Muslims are divided into different categories. We'll be talking about them. There are those who are, for example, he's a Christian by name, but in his heart he doesn't believe in it. Or he's a Christian by name, he doesn't go to the church. Or he's a Christian by name, he doesn't care whatever religion people speak about. Or he's a Christian but he needs information for one reason or the other about Islam. Or he's a Christian priest, for example, he needs people to preach to people to follow his religion. So there are many categories. So when this person comes to you, it could be that he doesn't know anything about Christianity, or maybe he doesn't believe, for example, that Jesus was the Son of God, and before you know it, you go, Islam, we don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God. After 1 hour, he will tell you, sir, I also don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God. So why did you waste your time? So you have to know first what his beliefs are. Or if he's a Christian, to what level is he a believer? So if he's a person who wants to challenge or to debate you, maybe it depends. If you have time, you can do that, but I don't recommend to do that. Even when he wants to debate with you, you can refer him to people who can do that in the most positive way. So the point is, don't keep comparing between in Christianity this, in Islam. Just focus on your commodity. Focus on Islam. So he himself, in his heart and mind, he will compare. So don't do the comparison unless he asks you a question. In Islam, how do you do this? For example, the lady who wanted to know what happens in the grave after someone died, then in this case we can give them the information, but we don't compare. Maybe you can also ask them a counter question. In your religion, how do you do it? Or in your religion, how is it done? So asking in a polite way. Contending that you are competing with this person, you want to convince him. In one setting, you want just this person to be a believer. Don't do that. Just you provide information and this person will judge for himself. Avoiding lying, and actually it's a problem. Some people underestimate the intellect of the non-Muslims. So a non-Muslim would ask you a question, you are not sure about the answer, but you say, no, he's a non-Muslim, he doesn't have enough information, I can't tell him anything, because you want to look a superhero, Superman, who knows everything. No one knows everything. If anyone tells you he knows everything, he's a liar. No one knows everything on earth. Even the Prophet ﷺ didn't know everything except what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to him. But unfortunately, some people claim they know everything. Islam is a religion, is my religion, I have a PhD in Islamic Sharia, and they don't know. No one knows everything. So if a non-Muslim asks you a question, you don't know the definite answer, politely tell him, I don't know the answer, I will research and come back to you. They will respect that. But if you just give him any answer, you're not sure about it, and then he discovers that the answer you gave him was wrong, will he trust you again? Will he respect you? No. So you're losing this person. And this happens a lot. I know some people per se who lost the non-Muslims because they were just giving them any answer. And this person would go and do his research and find out the answer was incorrect. And I know some people who would ask me personally, someone in particular, he would continuously ask me for 6 years. And whenever I didn't know the answer, I would tell him I would research and come back to you. I did. Finally, he became a Muslim. And he respected that. So people will respect that. If you say you don't know, you will research the answer. Yes, brother Salah, you wanted to...
This is a very valid point, because when Prophet Muhammad sent one of his companions, and the Prophet told him the answer, so he didn't just come up with the answer as he said.
Yeah. Even the Prophet ﷺ, they would ask him questions to which he didn't have answers. He would tell them, he would keep quiet and tell them, I will tell you later. I haven't received any revelation today. For example, mockingly, the polytheists of Mecca approached the Prophet ﷺ and started asking him, this God, the one you believe in, how is he? Is he tall? Is he short? Is he fat? Is he thin? How is he? The Prophet ﷺ, of course, they were offensive questions. He didn't know the answer. After some time, Allah revealed to him قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Say, He is Allah, the one and only. Allahu Samad, Allah the Absolute. Lam Yalid, He begetteth not, He doesn't beget. Walam Yulad, and He was not begotten. Walam Yakun Lahu Kufuwan Ahad, and there is nothing that looks like Him. So the Prophet didn't know the answer on so many occasions. He didn't know the answer until revelation came to him. So who am I or you to claim you have answers for everything? You will lose respect. And actually, this is a good point to prove to the people who used to accuse the Prophet ﷺ and who still accuse the Prophet ﷺ that he was the author of the Quran. Even Michael H. Hart, who wrote the book entitled The 100 Most Influential People in History, and number one was Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. He did write some good things about the Prophet ﷺ, but he wrote that the Prophet was the author of the Quran. I have the book, so we say here it's wrong. So those who claim that the Prophet ﷺ was the author of the Quran, we tell them, if he was the author of the Quran, how come he didn't know answers to some questions, and then after some time he got answers? Who gave him the answers? So this is one of the answers that we can give, that the Prophet sometimes didn't know the answers to the questions. Do not exaggerate in expounding facts about Islam. So don't be every time Islam like 1 hour, 2 hours. So this person doesn't have time for that. And remember, he's still a new person. So if he opens up a little bit, so don't inundate him with a lot of information, exaggerating to him. And actually, sometimes people will accuse Muslims of being illiterate, ignorant, backward, to be treacherous, arrogant. The list goes on and on. So yes, you accept this is the truth, but also you can give him the flip side of another side of good Muslims, the companions of the Prophet. So don't dwell on the negative. So you're trying to present to him the good aspects of Islam, and if Muslims don't follow, this is their problem, and don't dwell on that. Likewise, do not exaggerate in offering support or assistance to this person. And actually, this is a big problem if you are doing da'wah, especially if this person is from a certain country. He's a friend of a person. Let's say one person is from the developed countries, another person is from the developing countries. You are doing da'wah, you claim to be religious, and you focus on those from the developed countries. You ignore those from the developing countries. These people are clever. They are observing what you're doing, what you're saying. And actually, I used to have a lot of friends. One of them is Mr. Rick. Mr. Rick, he told me his father was Jewish and his mother was American, and he was we were actually teaching in the same school. So he would tell me, you know what, Mr. Hassan, I have a Bangladeshi friend. Sometimes I visit some Muslims, and they concentrate on me because I am American, and they don't care about their Bangladeshi Muslim brother. So which kind of Islam is this? Yet they tell me in Islam there is equality, Muslims are brothers. And he would tell me that, you know, Mr. Hassan, I don't want someone to treat me well because of my nationality, because of my passport. I want someone to treat me well because of who I am as a human being. So he would go on and say, for example, if I don't have this passport, would they treat me well? So people are clever. They are observing. So don't exaggerate in offering support to this person, because he will misinterpret it. Another story, someone wanted to learn Arabic in a certain place. So because he had a high position and from the developed countries, so they offered him the classes for free. He had read a brochure, he had to pay money. So they insisted, he insisted on paying money, they insisted on saying, no, don't pay. You know what he told me? He told me, you know, Mr. Hassan, according to my culture, there is no free lunch. If these guys are offering free Arabic classes, maybe they will need something from me. He didn't take the classes. So these are some of the mistakes that we do when we are doing da'wah. We underestimate the intellect of those people we're dealing with, the humanity of those people we're dealing with. Actually, my friend Rafi' told me he was in America. He was praising the American people, how polite they are. Glib generalization. This is also another problem. You know, some people will say, for example, all the British people are not good. No, in every country, every society, you have good people and bad people. Don't generalize. So if you generalize, you are actually offending this person. Sometimes even some Muslims, he's a Muslim American, when people talk negatively about his country, he feels bad, and he's right. So don't generalize. So because one person from that country did something wrong and you paint all the citizens of that country as bad people. No. Generalization isn't right. In as much as we hate it when they generalize Muslims, we should also not generalize the non-Muslims. If someone does wrong, it's that person, not the community itself. Leave a gap between you and that person you want to introduce Islam to. Actually, for example, you got introduced to someone. He's a non-Muslim. He asks for information about Islam. So tomorrow you're calling him. After tomorrow, and you give the number to your friends. Also your friends call him. And there is this tendency. Some Muslims, they get excited a lot. If they get an acquaintance who is a non-Muslim and happens to ask them questions about Islam, they will give his number to about 10 people. So this one would call, this one would call. Finally, they will change the number. This is too much. So if he gives you the chance to share with him some information about Islam, leave a gap and let it be between you and him or between you and her. Otherwise, you will scare them. You will give them the impression that you are preaching to them and you are trying to force them to be Muslims, and we don't want to lose them. They will think that by presenting Islam to them, you are actually benefiting from that. They might think that maybe you are paid. And I have had some comments about this. They will be bored. It will be monotonous if we call them every time, every minute, every day. Let's do this, let's do this. And also there is a proverb, an English proverb, which says, a constant visitor is never welcome. And actually, most importantly, don't ask for any favor from them. You know, I know some people, they got the chance to meet with the Canadian ambassador. He asked the former Canadian ambassador. He needed some information. Some guys were asking him to help them to get visas to go to Canada. And he would continuously tell them, our system is different. Even if I'm the ambassador, I can't help you. So don't ask for any assistance or any favor, because they will feel that you are using religion to elicit some benefits from them. And they won't respect you, they won't respect Islam. So you are doing it for the sake of Allah. Don't take any favors. What you're required to do is for you to give them gifts, but occasionally you leave a gap between you and them. Actually, I will end with this. Listen carefully. So when you're talking to them, they're giving you answers, don't interrupt them. You know, some Muslims, they have this behavior. You're talking to them, you are in the middle of the sentence. They don't give you the chance to finish. No, I know what you want to say, but maybe what you want to say is different. Most of the time is that he knows until the middle of the sentence, but the conclusion is going to be different. So don't interrupt that person. And this is the listening continuum. At the beginning, it's ignoring. You know, sometimes you go to a mall, you go to a shop. You're serious, you want to buy something, maybe you want to buy the watch. So you ask the shop attendant or the shopkeeper or whatever, how much is this watch? First, he would size you up. If you look poor, depends on where you are, they will ignore you. You will ask 3 times, how much is this? Busy with the mobile, WhatsApp, Viber. How much is the 3 times? Then you say, even without looking at you, 30 KD. Can you give me a discount? No, you can go to the other shop. Are you going to buy from this person? Now, this person needs information from you about Islam. He's asking questions. So you're here busy with your mobile. There should be an eye contact. So don't ignore them. Someone who is talking to you, don't ignore him. Pretentious listening. This is when you are patronizing someone. Okay, what do you have to say? Like, so what? So you're giving him the attitude that you are patronizing him, that you are judging him, condemning him, you are sizing him up. And there is attentive listening. You're attentive in listening, but you are listening within your own frame of reference. Does anyone know what it means? Listening to someone, you are attentive, but you are listening within your own frame of reference. What does it mean? You have preconceived ideas about him, about what he says. So what he says, you're just thinking, yeah, I will answer like him, I'll just punch him. Dude. So you're not listening to understand, you are listening to get points on which to capitalize to hit him, or to punch at him, or to give him a knockout. So actually yes, you might be quiet, you might be looking at his eyes, but you are actually not understanding what he says. You are picking what you want. And there is empathetic listening. This is when you are listening within the other person's frame of reference. So you're putting yourself in the shoes of this person. He came from a society where they have bad image of Islam. Their source of information is the media. It's negative about Islam. He never met with Muslims. Even some, for example, when I went to America in 2001, I met a lady and I was doing da'wah to her, a young lady, very beautiful. So after some time she told me, you know, Mr. Hassan, I have met with a lot of Muslim men. Quote, I have met with a lot of Muslim men, but no one ever talked to me about Islam. All of them wanted to make relationships with me. They wanted her to be their girlfriend. Unquote. So I was the only, according to her, I was the only one who gave her information. So we end up complaining. People have negative attitude about Islam. Yet when we have the chance, we don't use the chance. We just have our own ulterior motives. So how will this lady respect the Muslims? And so many stories. So we have to be careful. And actually the empathetic listening also has levels. First, you have to mimic the content. So this person is saying, you know what, in my religion we believe. So you mimic, you repeat. You say, okay, so in your belief you do it. So this is to show that you are actually willing to listen, willing to understand, and you are repeating what this person is saying. And if he or she says something which is somehow suspicious, ambiguous, so you repeat it to make sure that you got the facts clear. So if you keep repeating, asking questions when this person is talking, they will get the impression that really you want to understand. Rephrase the content. So when they say something, you can rephrase it to make sure you okay, let me put it this way. Did I understand you well? So you believe that Jesus isn't the Son of God, right? Then they will say yes. So this will make him or her feel that you are listening. Reflect feeling. And this is very important. When someone, for example, tells you, you know, my father died 2 weeks ago. Do you smile or you show sadness? So imagine someone tells you, my father died 2 years ago, 2 weeks ago. Then you smile, so you're not actually reflecting feeling. So when this person talks to you about sad moments, empathize with him or her. Feel sad. Good moments, feel happy. Cheer them up. Encourage them. So in this way, they will feel comfortable and they would like to talk to you again with sincere desire to understand. So when this person is talking to you, you are talking to that person. When you're listening to him or her, you should sincerely will to understand him. Because understanding him is very important. It will lay the ground for you to know what to say after or what to do after.